Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sci-Fi Sunday on this channel where we're going to talk about all things sci-fi. And I thought we'd talk a little bit about the DCEU superhero universe now that it's over and where it should be going from here with the new powers in charge. So let's jump right into it. So the DCEU has officially come to an end with the latest Aquaman movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But I don't believe this is the end of our beloved property on the big screen. And I'm excited to see what comes next. We're going to take a look in this video at the history of the DCEU. And mind you, what I'm going to tell you is not really about me hating on or criticizing. It's just the overall that I have heard here and there. And I enjoyed the DCEU for what it was. But I also am excited to see what they do next. In terms of when we get to the actual part where I tell you what I think needs to be done in order to make the next incarnation, the DCU, successful, that is only my opinion. When we first were introduced, we had Superman. And we got a Superman origin story that was a little darker than people actually thought about wanting. But the movie wasn't terrible. The movie is, in fact, an okay movie. Sure, it made decisions that older fans of the series may not have been too down for, or a lot of movie fans that love the older movies wouldn't have been down for. But overall, it wasn't a bad movie at all. Then, jump forward. We got Batman vs. Superman. And this movie introduced us to the Justice League, and introduced us to the Justice League in a way that some people say was too soon. A lot of people had the opinion that this should have taken a number of movies. And on the surface, I kind of agree with that statement. I believe that it went a little too haywire with putting all these characters in the movie to be introduced. But hold up. The way they did it was actually quite clever. That meant going forward, we didn't need to get origin stories for everyone necessarily, and that wasn't a bad thing. There are some people that just didn't think jumping from Batman versus Superman into an outright Justice League movie was the right choice. And say what you want. The Justice League movie we got was divisive, and then after that, everything started to kind of go its separate ways. We got the Aquaman movie that was sort of a standalone movie. Every other movie that we got was sort of standalone. There was a few sort of hints and nods to which ones might take place in the same universe as our regular DCEU was taking. But a lot of times you didn't know if this was the case. Honestly, that was the problem. Some of the movies had nothing to kind of hint that anything DCEU was in fact going on. Especially in the case of the first Aquaman movie, where they said outright they didn't want to connect it to the DCEU movies that they've had so far. They wanted it to be able to stand on its own. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there was no big bad going forward. There was no nothing. You had the Shazam movie, which kind of connected, but then we couldn't really see Superman's face due to things going on behind the scenes. The Wonder Woman 84 movie was sort of divisive in its own right, and it didn't really have any sort of connective tissue to anything going forward with the DCEU either. And then you had the Flash movie, which took a couple years to come out because of all the problems they were having, and then Ezra Miller being in trouble with the law. And I think that hurt the bottom line of the movie. Then we get the Blue Beetle movie, which is said by James Gunn to be one of the only characters going through to the new DCU, which is what he's calling his. That movie showed us that there's a multiverse. The Flash movie kind of showed us that there's a multiverse within the DCU. And then we get Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom, which again is a standalone movie. It's sort of a stand on its own type of movie. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It had one of the coolest villains. It really did. I really did enjoy this movie for what it was worth. But that brings us to the problem with the DCEU and why fans should be somewhat excited to move forward, even if they have fears of embracing something completely new. We're starting off small in the new DCU, with the Creature Commandos being the first thing we're actually going to see, and that's going to be on HBO Max as a television show. Then we're going to get Superman Legacy. Now, a lot of people have shown concerns that Superman Legacy will in fact be kind of strange because it's supposed to have all these characters in it. This is to show that Superman doesn't have an origin in this movie. We're not getting an origin story for Superman. He already exists in this movie, so that's kind of the thing. To show you a world where superheroes and supervillains do in fact exist. Then, from there, where do they go? If this is the state of the new DCU, where in fact should they go? This is my opinion on that subject. I think in order for it to be successful, there has to be a big bad that is kind of going all the way through. I don't want them to rinse and repeat everything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done, but let's be realistic. If you are creating a movie where eventually we are going to get a Justice League, then yes, there has to be something going forward that would be that big threat. While I like the character of Darkseid, and I do like him being in the Snyder Cut, I think that Darkseid is in fact not the villain they need. He needed to be a later villain. That's not to say they shouldn't have something really crazy going on. They should in fact have an enemy. And if this gets them compared to the MCU, then that's fine. But it has to have coherency all the way through. You have to realize that all of these are in fact connected. Even if you are seeing them as separate movies, it has to feel as though they're in the same universe. That's kind of the trick. They have to have that coherent plot all the way through. They have to have the connective villain. They have to have something that is the big threat that they have to face. I do want to see them start small. I don't want to see them actually bother with some big enemies at first. I do want one big cosmic enemy that they have to face as a team. That would be your setup for the Justice League movie. We can know that there's something out there waiting that's a bigger threat, that yes, Superman is going to have to team up with these other heroes eventually. That would be super cool. So all of this has to be handled just right. If they do any of this wrong, we're going to hear about it. We're going to hear people start to wonder, why didn't they do this and why didn't they do that? They do have to be wary of what the fans actually want, of what the fans actually are asking for. So going forward with the DCU now, it's going to be a matter of world building. It's going to be a matter of giving us the heroes ahead of time and then having them connect as a team and then having them be able to, from there, move on with other movies that they are doing as standalone movies that also have a connective thing going on, because you're gonna want them to be able to team up whenever necessary. And I think that while you may compare this to the MCU, it's because the MCU did it best. That's what I think needs to happen going forward, and why I think the DCEU being gone is not the end of our beloved properties. As always, we want to know what you guys think. Make sure you leave us that comment in the comment box below. Make sure you share this video with all of your friends. Make sure you hit that like button. Miko says we need more subscribers. So hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. And friends, at the end of the day, I know you know it and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.